Hello! Hey guys, I'm Rachel. What's up? Welcome back to my channel. Since the winter anime season just ended, I thought I would give you some of my thoughts, impressions, kind of a final review of the season as a whole. Now, I did a previous video sharing my first impressions of some of the shows that I watched, but my opinions have changed. I didn't stick with some shows, I added some other ones, so I thought it would be good to kind of give you my final thoughts. Now, as a disclaimer, I did not watch every show, so I can't give you like a comprehensive review of the entire anime season. I can tell you my thoughts, my opinions, likes, dislikes, but enough talking, let's get right into it. So I think I'll start off easy with the shows that I ditched pretty quickly. These shows I only watched one episode of, and they really did not make an impression on me or hold my interest enough for me to dive deeper. The shows that I ditched after one episode were Grancrest Senki, Hakyu, Houshin, Engi, Ramen, Daisuki, Koizumi-san, and Sanrio Danshi. Overall, I just found these shows to be not compelling enough to stick with. Grancrest Senki, I was bored during the episode, so I knew I definitely wasn't going to stick with it. I just felt like all four of these shows in general were very boring, even from the first episode. And honestly, nobody is really talking about these shows as being amazing, so I think I made a good decision by not sticking with any of these shows. I mean, my time is precious these days. So another show I did not stick with, Idolish 7. I only watched 2 episodes of this. I feel like this show, I didn't hate it or anything, it just didn't really stick with me and compel me to stay. But I do think people are talking about Idolish 7. There are a lot of fans of this show, especially if you really like the Bishonen music genre. I think the music's good, the dances are catchy. I think my 16-year-old self would have really been into this show. At this point, the content is a bit fluffy for me, and I find myself not watching these types of shows as much anymore. So I can't comment on it further than that. I think it was just a personal preference. Now, after only 3 episodes, I did stop watching Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens. This show I thought had some promise. I thought the characters seemed really interesting in the beginning, but after 3 episodes, I just felt like it wasn't really going anywhere, and I stopped being interested. Like, I stopped caring about what everyone was doing, and in general, it just wasn't as interesting as I hoped. Now, again, a lot of people are not talking about this show either, so I don't think it really broke any new ground. Another show that kind of fell off the radar for me was Kokkoku. I watched about 6 episodes of this, I think, and I really was interested in the premise. This idea of like a stopped time world. There were these kind of spooky creatures that inhabited the world that it turns out are people. And so the concept is really interesting and cool, but the execution is just kind of poor. It just moved so slowly. Like, I get that this is a piece about stop time, but I didn't think the plot needed to move at quite such a snail's pace. So now I want to talk about Violet Evergarden. I'm not going to say I've completely given up on this show. I think I will watch it more. I've watched about 5 or 6 episodes. I started to lose interest in this show for a few reasons. It has caused me to slow down my watching considerably, and now I'm several episodes behind. I know in the beginning I said that I thought Violet's character was incredibly interesting, but at this point, I just feel like she's incredibly socially awkward and very difficult to relate to. I'm not sure why she is so bad at interacting with people and understanding feelings. It makes it hard to stay invested in a show when the main character has such a bland personality. Now, of course, the animation and the world building in this show are incredible. It's gorgeous, beautifully animated, and honestly, I probably will continue with this show. It's just kind of a slow-moving story with isolated episodic moments, and so I just haven't been really excited to watch it. It feels a bit more like work every time I go to play an episode. I haven't really reached any major plot twists or major plot points, so that's part of the reason why it was moving a bit slowly for me. I'm not totally hating on it, just being real and saying that the pacing of the show is not really holding my interest every week. Now, there were some shows that were released on Netflix this season, and I'm currently watching A.I.C.O. Incarnation, or A.I.C.O. Incarnation. It's basically a futuristic sci-fi show where this scientific event has happened where this matter has kind of gone out of control and it overtakes entire cities, rivers, mountains. It's like making its way through the land. Humanity has had to set up dams to kind of block this matter from advancing and overtaking the land. It seems to be that the origin of this matter is man-made. It's directly linked to the main character, who early on we discover her body is completely synthetic. It seems that developing this sort of synthetic human body may have led to this catastrophic event. So I'm only about 4 episodes in, but I'm really interested by the premise and, I'm really interested by the premise, and so I'm definitely actively watching this show, and I will let you guys know how it turns out. So now I'm gonna talk about the shows that I finished this season. Now the first show I'm gonna talk about, I have mentioned before in several videos, it's Devilman Crybaby. Now I binge watched this as soon as it came out. I think I watched all 10 episodes in about 2 days. So I was really into the show when it came out, and I still maintain that it's one of the best shows of the season. It's really well done. There's this amazing, unique animation style thanks to Yuasa Masaki and his direction, and I think this really sets the show apart. Now, it does not look like traditional anime, and so that may set some people off. The story is concise based on Go Nagai's original Devilman story, so you know the content is good. There's absolutely no filler here. It is a bit dark, which I always like. I think what I love the most about this show is that it's incredibly fresh, modern, and unique, but it also mixes with that 70s, 80s anime style of storytelling. So there's a bit of nostalgia there as well, and it just blends the two in such a great mix. Next, I'm gonna talk about Ito Junji Collection. I did watch all 12 episodes of this show. I am a big fan of Ito Junji already, but I have to say this show, the animation is just god awful. Like, really bad. Like, so bad, there are some shots where the characters are facing away so that you don't have to see their mouths moving. It seems intentional, like they didn't want to animate somebody talking, so instead you're forced to look at the back of their head. It's really obvious that this show had an incredibly low budget and really poor animation. So my camera decided to delete some of the footage I shot, so future Rachel is here to the rescue. In general, the animation does not maintain the quality of Ito Junji's original art, and I think that is the worst thing about this show. It almost would have been better if they had just taken the manga panels, added a little bit of animation, and did some voiceover dialogue, because then at least we would have gotten the really creepy, cool visual style of Ito Junji. So each episode features 2 different stories, and I thought the stories that were chosen were overall pretty good, pretty strong. There are some stories I'm not quite sure why they were chosen, as I felt they were a bit weaker, but some of the highlights for me definitely were the Tomie story. There are a ton of Tomie stories in the Ito Junji world. She has her own collection of stories, so it would have been a bit weird if she was not included in this show. We are going to be getting some additional OVAs featuring Tomie as well. I also really enjoyed Slug Girl, which is some good old-fashioned body horror. A lot of the stories are more of a pastiche, more of like an atmospheric story as opposed to a story with a beginning, middle, and end. But I feel like overall it worked to split the episodes up into 2 different tales. It helped move it along, especially with some of the weaker stories. Now, of course, the show began and ended with 2 Soichi stories, which he is a recurring character in a lot of Ito Junji's works, so it did seem necessary that he was included. I just find his character somewhat annoying, and his stories are never super interesting to me, but that's how the series ended. On the whole, the series was very weak, especially in terms of animation, and I feel like some of the story choices slowed it down a bit. And the main reason I had to refilm is because I needed to talk about Pop Team Epic. This is a series that I didn't start watching initially. Each episode is about 12 minutes long, and they feature little skits or short segments, and they're all totally random and not interconnected at all. Now, there are 2 broadcasts of this show, and the first broadcast usually featured some female voice actors, and the second broadcast usually featured male voice actors. And at the beginning of the show, the dialogue was exactly the same, but as the show evolved, the dialogue actually started changing, so the jokes would be different between the first and the second broadcast. And really, to enjoy this show, you have to watch both, because sometimes the dialogue references something that happened in a previous episode, or it's like a commentary on itself, and it really added to the incredible humor of this show. I do think with Pop Team Epic, you do need some knowledge of Japanese culture to understand the jokes. What I really appreciated every week is that there would be like a Reddit thread or different videos on YouTube that would kind of dive into the analysis of each of these episodes and really point out what all of the references were. And I felt like kind of diving into like the nerdy side of Pop Team Epic, I learned so much about Japanese culture and like current internet memes, because obviously I don't spend a ton of time on the Japanese side of the internet, and that's really where most of the references and jokes are coming from. There were references to things like The Shining, some old Yakuza movies, current internet memes, and this show created its own memes. So it's like a meme creating a meme. It's memeception. I really felt overall that Pop Team Epic was actually one of the best shows of the season. I watched this as soon as it came out every single week, and I really hope we get another season, because as nonsensical as it is, I feel like that kind of nonsensical humor actually really works. So you see how important it was for me to include Pop Team Epic? I mean, it was amazing. I couldn't just leave it out of this video. I think that's about all the footage that was deleted, so future Rachel out. So another show that actually is still ongoing, so I can't give a complete review of it, that I'm really in love with is Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card. Now, I was already a fan of Cardcaptor Sakura. I really like Maho Shoujo magical girl genre already. And this is just more of the great Sakura stuff that you know and love. It's beautifully animated. It's really well done. There is some Monster of the Week filler, but I think the best thing about the show is as Sakura collects each card, her powers get more and more advanced. It's a really unique take on the stereotypical magical girl genre. So she gets new powers every time she collects a card. It's really cute now as well, because the show is dealing with more middle school themes, whereas the original series took place in elementary school. So now Sakura is going on a date and kind of exploring that early romance in a way that was not really developed in the first show. It was always kind of implied. So I really think this show is not gonna disappoint me. It's just more Cardcaptor Sakura. The last show I'm still watching is Darling in the Franxx. Now, I've mentioned this in so many videos. I really feel stupid talking about it more. I just want you to know that I am still going strong on this show. I think it just gets better and better every time there is a new serious plot episode. Like the last 2 episodes, 13 and 14, were really good. It was a strong turning point for the show. I expected it would be, as usually in anime like this, there is kind of a strong plot change around midway. I think by far, even though the show is not done yet, it's probably the best show of the season. It might be in some of my top anime of all time. It's that good, in my opinion. So there are, of course, shows that I didn't watch this season, and there are a few that I still want to check out that I've heard are really interesting, and I want to know from you guys as well what shows you're into. I just wanted to give some of my final thoughts about this season as a whole. I actually think it was quite a strong season with a lot of good shows that really stood out. There was some unique stuff, and it's hard to sift through some of that generic stuff and find the real gems. I feel like lately, in the last year or so, anime has been kind of weak overall. I haven't found a lot of shows that I've like grabbed onto and loved, and this season had several for me that I was super into. The other thing is I really love this new Netflix style of releasing an entire show all at once. I actually really prefer to binge watch a show instead of watching it every single week, because I tend to forget. And when you start watching a lot of shows, like right now I'm watching a ton of anime and shows, and every week I have to like remember, okay, this is what happened last week. This is what happened last week. And stories now are so reliant on the overarching arc. I find that when I'm able to actually sit and binge watch a show, I remember it better. I remember what's going on. I remember the character relations better. And so I really love the fact that a lot of anime now, or several animes, are being released on Netflix so that you have that opportunity. I know I could wait until after the fact and watch these shows and be able to binge watch it to my heart's content, but I like to stay up and current with things, and it's not all bad, but I definitely love this Netflix style, and I hope that we see more anime released on Netflix in the future. So that's really all I have to say about the anime from this last season. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did as well. I would love to know if you agree with any of my assessments, if there's any shows I should watch, if there's something that you disagreed with, please let me know in the comments. And if you did like this video, it would be so great if you could hit that little thumbs up like button down below. If you'd like to see more nerdy videos, I am going to be talking about the new spring season of anime coming up soon. You can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!